13 bone-chilling Appalachian secrets exposed. Never hike alone after midnight. Eerie tales await. Jake Carter had just returned to the U.S. after years of military service overseas, and now he was about to embark on an adventure that could either mend his relationship with his teenage daughter, Emily, or tear them apart for good. The quaint town of Pine Hollow, nestled in the rugged Appalachian Mountains, was known for its breathtaking views but held secrets darker than the shadows cast by its towering trees. Legends whispered of folk from decades past who had made desperate trades for prosperity, only to discover too late that safety and peace could come at a grave cost. As twilight fell, an unsettling hush wrapped around the mountain trails. Emily, with her wary eyes wide, scanned the trees, ghosts dancing along the branches, just out of focus. "Dad, do you really think we should be out here?" she asked, her voice a trembling echo of what it once was. The air had thickened, pregnant with unvoiced fears. Jake felt a shiver creep down his spine. "Nothing to worry about, Em. Just some old stories. They don't mean anything." He spoke with more confidence than he felt, hoping to instill courage in her, a trait he valued after all he had witnessed. But that ever-present legacy weighed heavily on his heart, a reminder of what had kept him from her all those years. Suddenly, a chill swept through the area, causing the nearby trees to sway. As if mocking the tension between them, a gust sent leaves spiraling downward. Jake chuckled nervously to mask the tightness in his chest. Each footfall felt heavier, the ground beneath them pulsating as if the mountains were alive with unsettling emotions. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. Reinvigorated, they pressed on. But as they trudged deeper into the woods, Jake felt the air thicken with tension. The whispers swirled around them, songs of sorrow from those lost in time, each note a warning laced with a deep, foreboding chill. Emily stumbled slightly, glancing back through the increasing darkness, her fear palpable. "Dad, something doesn't feel right." Jake's heart raced. He wanted to assure her, to be the pillar of strength she needed, but doubt seeped in. Shadows flickered between the trees, almost beckoning them toward an ominous glow ahead. It pulsed like a heartbeat, hungry for curiosity, and for a moment, Jake hesitated, an instinct urging him to pull her close and turn back. But Emily's curiosity sparked a flicker of rebellion, and with wide eyes, she whispered, "What if we find something? What if we discover the truth?" In that moment of silence, under the weight of the towering woods, Jake realized not just the peril resting ahead, but the truth that their connection needed to be woven not from the shadows of their past but rather faced openly, together. What awaited them in the darkness? What truths would they uncover about Pine Hollow's haunted history and their own troubled relationship? As anxiety gnawed at Jake's insides, he gripped Emily's hand tighter, realizing that he was facing something more terrifying than the legends, the battle for his daughter's trust. Each step felt heavier as they moved toward the source of the flickering light. The air crackled with anticipation, vibrant and ominous. Jake could sense his daughter's pulse matching the throb of the glow through their joined hands, each heartbeat a countdown to the unknown. "Do you see that, Dad?" Emily whispered, her eyes fixed on the light. It flickered and danced, a beacon in the growing darkness. "What do you think it is?" "I don't know, Em." "Just stay close," Jake urged, an edge of protectiveness sharpening his words. The trees around them began to thicken, reaching out with skeletal branches that stretched like fingers grasping for warmth. Evening shadows crept along the ground, nearly swallowing their feet whole. An unsettling quiet surrounded them, so profoundly still that Jake could hear his own breath, quick and shallow. Every rustle sent his heart racing, every silence felt like a presence. As they and the menacing glow drew nearer, dread crawled up Jake's spine. Memories of distant gunfire, explosions, and the cries of comrades filled his thoughts, echoes of battles far different than the one he faced now. Was he really prepared for this? Was it truly the right decision to come here? A sudden sharp intake of breath broke the heavy silence. What if it's dangerous? Emily's voice trembled, painting the unspoken worries that danced in her eyes. The flickering light intensified, casting eerie shapes along the bark of nearby trees. "We can't turn back now," Jake replied, though the words felt heavy on his tongue. They had to know what lay ahead, not just as adventurers, but as a father and daughter facing the ghosts of their past. They approached the light, revealing a small clearing shrouded in an ethereal glow emanating from a circle of stones. Inside the circle, spectral silhouettes glimpsed through thin wisps of mist shifted, indistinct yet eerily human-like. Jake felt an icy grip around his heart. Those shapes, were they memories? Echoes of those who had made the trades long ago. What is this place? Emily breathed, her curiosity battling with the instinct to flee. Jake felt the weight of truth hanging in the air, a promise of answers drenched in an undercurrent of horror. The light brightened, illuminating the grotesque features of the shadows, and Jake could have sworn he heard whispers rising like a tide. Words he couldn't quite catch, but the urgency behind them sent chills rippling through him. He squeezed Emily's hand tighter, the reality settling in. This was no ordinary hike. Something about this place felt sacred yet cursed. That a violent wind gusted suddenly, rattling branches and sweeping across their faces. Jake stood frozen, eyes locked on the stone circle. He realized it was no coincidence they stumbled upon this. Fate had drawn them here, perhaps to confront not just the town's haunting history, but the fractured bond between them. "Jake," Emily whispered, trembling as she took a step back. "The stories they said to never disturb the spirits. What if they don't want us here?" "It's too late to turn back now," he replied, voice firm, though his bones felt weak. The shadows flickered again, more animated now, pulsating with desperation as the wind howled louder, drowning out everything else. Then, in an unsettling clarity, a strong voice cut through the chaos. "Make your choice, or the price will be dear." Jake's eyes widened. The ancient legends were true. His chest tightened with terror as he realized the clarity of the words was wrapped in a dark reality. They had come too far, they had awakened whatever lived here. But what was the choice? His mind raced, anxiety colliding with the mounting sense of dread. Emily's eyes searched his, imploring, fearful. What would they do next? As the shadows beckoned, a single thought pierced through Jake's confusion. They had to break the cycle or become another lost tale in Pine Hollow's haunted history. "Please, let us go before it's too late," Emily urged, tugging at his arm, but the voice boomed again, echoing through the clearing, "Choose." As the choice loomed over them like a storm cloud ready to burst, Jake's mind spiraled. What would they sacrifice? What truth lay buried in the heart of this cursed land? The woods held their breath, and the answers awaited. Emily's grip tightened around Jake's hand, her fingers trembling. "Dad, I can't do this." Her voice was a frantic whisper, like a bird caught in a storm, fluttering desperately against the window. "Look at the stones," Jake said, his voice barely more than a croak. The circle of stones seemed to pulse in the darkness, their surfaces glimmering faintly as if alive. The shadows loomed around them, bending and stretching, skirting on the very edges of comprehension. "How do we choose?" Emily asked, her wide eyes reflecting terror mixed with curiosity. "What if we make the wrong choice?" Jake felt the weight of her fear settle into his chest like a hard rock, but his mind churned with possibilities. The voices rose and fell like the cresting waves of a dark ocean. "Perhaps it's not about what we choose but why we are here," he said, trying to steady himself. As they stood trembling at the edge of the clearing, a flicker of resolve ignited in Jake. What if they had come to this place for a reason? Was it possible they could learn from those echoes, those shadows? The wind howled again, a mournful cry that churned the mist and sent a shiver down his spine. He looked toward the spectral figures and felt a spark of recognition. Familiar faces flickered behind the mist, friends, comrades, long-lost family. those he had sacrificed or lost in the darkest moments of his life. "Dad, look!" Emily pointed, her voice a mix of hope and fear. "They're reaching out like they want us to listen." Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. The whispers grew louder, spiking with urgency, creating a cacophony that drowned out the wind. "It is time to remember the price of the past, only you can decide." The pulse of the shadows heightened, pounding in Jake's veins. Images surged in his mind, the faces of those he had lost, the pain and guilt that had clung to him, and the unresolved emotions he had never faced. "What do you remember?" Jake found himself asking into the chaos, though the answer felt terrifying. Glancing at Emily, he knew they were intertwined with this burden of memory. Could they face it together, shatter the specter of the past? One shadow stepped forward suddenly, its essence warping in and out of clarity. Jake's heart raced as he recognized the haunting visage. It was his old friend Ben, who had vanished without a trace after that last mission. "Jake, Emily," Ben's voice echoed, dripping with a mix of sorrow and urgency. "You are here to join us, or you are here to set us free. Make the choice." Jake felt suffocated by the weight of his memories, but with Emily by his side, perhaps they could break the cycle of despair. He opened his mouth to reply, but the words felt trapped in his throat. "Who do you blame?" Ben pressed, wrapping them in a shroud of regrets and unspoken truths. "Do you dare to choose hope over fear? To forgive rather than to hold on to the pain? Just tell us." Emily cried, her voice laced with determination. "What do we need to do?" "The choice is yours," the shadows whispered. "Stay trapped in grief, or step into the light of truth. The bond of blood or the burden of the lost." Suddenly the circle of stones blazed with a brilliant light, illuminating every fraction of the clearing. The whispers crescendoed into a roar, urging Jake and Emily to act. With the shadows ripping and dancing wildly, Jake felt his heart race against the clamor of his thoughts. They had to make a decision, but he could hardly breathe, hope and doubt battling within him. What would this strange pact mean for them? We have to decide now." The air thrummed, and silence fell like a blanket over the clearing, waiting, watching. As the shadows coalesced around the stones, darkness enshrined them in a spiral, and the voice pulled them forward once more. "Choose your fate." Time hung on the edge of a knife, and in that moment, Jake knew the truth. But the question remained, what was the real cost of freedom? The woods creaked, holding its breath, as a quickening wind began to swirl. The wind howled again, and with it came a feeling so deep and primal that it sent a cold shiver down Jake's spine. The shadows twisted, writhing in the light from the stones, while the spectral figures beckoned. They were trapped in this eternal dance of sorrow, and Jake could feel the weight of their loneliness pressing against him like 1,000 lead weights. What are we going to do?" he breathed, panic rising within him. The air was thick with tension, each heartbeat sounding louder in the silence that wrapped around them. Emily's eyes were wide, glistening with unshed tears. "We can't let them suffer like this, but what if it's a trick?" Her voice trembled, a fine line between desperation and resolve. She swayed slightly, the energy of the moment swamping her. Jake took a deep breath, the taste of fear metallic on his tongue. "What if this is our chance to break free? To set them and ourselves free?" He could feel the truth of those words, a beacon cutting through the darkness wrapping around them. "We have to face the pain we've buried." Without thinking, he stepped forward, gripping the edge of the stone circle. "Listen!" he shouted, his voice echoing through the clearing, silencing the pulsating whispers around them. "We want to understand. We want to let you go." The shadows paused. A heavy silence blanketed the clearing, broken only by the sounds of their shaky breaths mingling with the rustling leaves. Emily, emboldened by her father's call, stepped closer. We want to forgive." In that moment, the fabric of reality seemed to unfold, tangling around them with threads of past regrets, unhealed wounds, and the haunting echo of grief. The air shimmered as a new figure emerged from the darkness, an elderly woman with kind eyes and an aura of warmth. Jake recognized her immediately, it was childhood mentor and friend, Clara, lost to time but never forgotten. "Forgiveness is not simple, dear ones," she said softly, her voice like the touch of a gentle breeze. "It requires courage and an understanding of what was lost." The weight of Jake's memories crashed over him. Moments enveloped in hope, but also terror. Could he truly heal from the scars of his past? "I remember I should have protected you," he finally admitted, choking on the lump in his throat. "I let you down, Clara." Tears streamed down Emily's cheeks. "I can't lose you too, Dad. We have to break this." Jake felt her fear resonate in his chest, felt the power of their bond anchor him. "I choose to forgive," he declared with newfound determination. As he spoke the transformative words, the light around them intensified, an undeniable force weaving through the clearing, enveloping the shadows in a golden embrace. The whispers transformed into a melody, surrounding them with both pain and healing, singing a story of hope, redemption, and the power of letting go. But in an instant, a crack split the night. The stones trembled beneath their feet as the boundary between the living and the dead began to distort. The figures shifted and writhed violently, the atmosphere growing electric and heavy. "Not all will be freed." Clara's voice pierced through the unfolding chaos. "The choice comes at a price. What you gain might also cost you dearly." The shadows snapped back as Jake and Emily were dragged into the storm of memories, a whirlwind of faces and voices colliding violently. Was their decision right? Could they truly bear the weight of their choice? In an agonizing climax, the very fabric of their reality screamed for acknowledgement of every lost moment, every unshared word. The swirling winds howled, and then, silence fell. Heartbeats echoed like thunder against the void. Emily whispered, eyes wide as she gripped his arm. "What happens now?" As darkness folded around them, a piercing light flickered. Was it a salvation, or a deeper, darker fate waiting to be revealed? They stood on the brink, the weight of their decision looming larger than ever. What balance would they strike in this web of the past and present? The moment stretched, taut and electric, as the light flickered and danced around Jake and Emily. The shadows twisted closer, drawn to the radiant energy, their mournful faces eager yet fearful. A myriad of emotions churned within Jake: hope, dread, a desperate longing to reach out and connect. He could feel Clara's presence lingering still, a silent guide on this path laced with danger and potential. "Keep your eyes on the light," Jake whispered, almost to himself, as if knowing that it flickered so precariously. The air hummed, charged with unspoken promises, vibrating against his skin. "Dad, what do we do?" Panic surged again in Emily's voice. She squeezed his arm, her grip tight enough to anchor him in this chaos. "What if this isn't what we think?" Jake glanced at her, wanting to assure her, to make the uncertainty worthwhile. He could feel the weight of shadows hungry for release, but also for retribution. "We have to trust ourselves, to make the right choice," he said, though doubt echoed in his heart. The ground beneath them began to shift, vibrant hues of yellow and gold blending with the creeping shadows. Suddenly, Clara's voice echoed once more, slicing through the tension. "To let go, sometimes you must also be willing to lose." The warning struck like a bolt of lightning. Yet, there was a flicker of understanding in Emily's eyes. "Do we have to give something up?" She looked around desperately, as if hoping to see her mother again. The thought of losing another piece of their family haunted her, making her breath shallow. Jake nodded, feeling a pang deep inside his chest. "It's a price we might have to pay if we truly want to break this cycle." He had never felt more torn. But what awaited them if they didn't take that leap? Would they be forever trapped in this ethereal realm, destined to carry the burdens of the past? Before he could voice these thoughts, the light swirled violently, becoming a tempest that battered against them. The wails of the shadows rose in protest, merging with a cacophony of memories: laughter, shrieks, cries for help, all blending into a whirlwind of regret. "I choose to forgive," he shouted, feeling the struggle of those around them thrumming through him. With every fiber of his being, he pushed out those words again, hoping they anchored something deep within the shadows. "We choose to forgive." A piercing scream erupted, and Jake's heart raced as he realized the shadows recoiled, as if struck. The melancholy faces twisted in anguish. They were resisting change, terrified of what it meant. Yet now they were given a choice: darkness or light. Don't give up. Emily's words rang through the chaos, one fierce voice among the swirling storm. We can set you free. We just need to understand. As she spoke, a wave of warmth seeped through Jake's veins, heal and pull. It sparked a bond, a flicker of hope igniting the encroaching shadows. Slowly, they began to fade, drawn towards the light as if the weight of their sorrow could be lifted at last, yet, something darker lurked in the margins of the clearing. Just when the tension seemed to crack, it struck. A shadow darker than the rest leaped from the depths, coiling around Jake's leg like a serpent. No! Emily screamed, panic seeping into her voice, as she tried to pull him free. But the shadows churned in furious defiance, their suffering palpable. Together! Jake shouted, desperation igniting his resolve. We're stronger together. As he struggled against the icy grip, his mind raced. Was this the price Clara spoke of? A sacrifice of their united bond, threatened by the very darkness they sought to dismantle. A blinding flash erupted, blurring his vision, and in that moment, a new understanding dawned. To forgive sometimes meant to face what they had avoided. Breathing heavily, sweating with effort, he turned to Emily, ready to confront the overwhelming presence. Stay with me. Whatever happens next, we have to hold on. But even as he spoke, the shadow tightened its grip, pulling them from the radiant core, dragging them back toward a terrifying unknown. Would they both emerge from this crucible stronger, or would they be swallowed whole by the darkness? The light flickered weakly as Jake fought to hold on, and the world around them began to dissolve. The shadows twisted, tightening their grip around Jake. Panic surged through him as he felt the icy tendrils snaking higher on his leg, constricting like a vice. Emily clutched his arm, her breathing frantic, a rhythm of fear echoing in the swirling chaos. Dad! Fight it! Her voice cut through the noise, snapping him back to focus. Jake could feel Emily's anxiety mixing with the cold dread of the shadows, and something primal screamed within him. He couldn't let them take her. He shoved down the rising tide of fear, reaching for the light that still shimmered ahead, flickering but alive. Emily, we can break this! He shouted against the cacophony of anguish swirling about them. We have to reach deep inside, tap into what binds us. A surge of warmth surged from their hands, a tether spark igniting against the shadow's malevolence. The shadows responded with a howl that vibrated in the bones of the earth, pushing back like a dark tide. Remember the memories, Em. Jake urged as he struggled against the grip, drawing strength from the love they shared with Clara. The laughter, the vacations, those simple moments that once felt mundane now shimmered with a profound brightness. Let us channel all that love. As if in response, the light flickered more fiercely, and he felt something shift in the shadows. A moment of hesitation danced across their twisted faces as they struggled against the warmth. But the dark coil gripping Jake tightened anew, sending a jolt of pain through him. Let them in. Clara's voice echoed hauntingly in his mind. They can't hurt you if you embrace them. With a deep breath, Jake focused on Emily. We can forgive them. They're lost, much like us. The shadows quivered, their howls turning shrill, and he could sense their fear ripple through the air. It was a reaction he hadn't expected, but it gave him hope. Forgive? Emily whispered, uncertainty prickling her heart. But she squeezed his hand even harder, searching his face for reassurance. But what if we can't? It's the only way we'll break free. His resolve stiffened, and he pushed his feelings outward, harnessing the love and warmth they cultivated together. We forgive you. He screamed into the maelstrom. All of you. We want to help. The shadows paused, and for a fleeting moment, their anguished howls turned to murmurs. The cold grip slackened slightly as the anguished faces flickered and blurred, revealing glimmers of hope dusted with sorrow. Do you see them? Emily gasped, tears streaming down her cheeks. They know. The darker shadow, more grotesque and twisted than the rest, reared back, unleashing a screech that reverberated through the clearing like thunder. It surged forward, the other shadows falling in line behind it, a formidable tide of despair. "Dad!" Emily screamed, but Jake couldn't let go. He held her hand tight, feeling the warmth between them brighten, struggling to push deeper against the encroaching darkness. "Think of your mother!" Jake shouted, voice raw, the memories of laughter and joy pouring out in a flood. "We can bring her spirit back with us." As he pushed the warmth outward once more, a tether of golden light spiraled from their grasp, illuminating the thick dark that surrounded them. The cacophony subsided, replaced only by a deep, pulsating quiet, heavy with longing, but in that peaceful moment, the dark force at their center writhed like a wounded beast, and Jake could feel its hate radiate towards them. "You can't save them." It hissed from the depths of its tortured form, each syllable like a dagger in the air. "In darkness, you cannot exist." Emily's voice rang out, her courage stunning in the face of primal fear. Yet, as she spoke, Jake felt the ground shift beneath them once more, the purifying light flickering dangerously low. Would they have enough strength to break the cycle? Or would the shadows consume their collective light, plunging them into an abyss of despair? The light flickered, the darkness howled, and in that moment, the echoes of a choice reverberated, teetering on the edge of extinction. What fate awaited them in the pit of shadows? The shadows erupted around them, his heart pounding like a war drum. The deeper darkness surged, a force of unyielding despair that engulfed everything in sight. Jake gritted his teeth, feeling the hot breath of impending doom on the back of his neck. "Keep fighting, Em." He shouted, every word laced with urgency. He focused on his daughter's face, her wide-eyed fear mirrored his own, but they couldn't let that consume them. "We have to stand together." The pins and needles of dread prickled at Jake's skin as he curled his fingers tighter around Emily's, willing more light to flow between them. "Remember our hike? The creek where we found the three-legged frog?" He said, the memory a fragile refuge. "The happiness, the laughter, it is still a part of us." As if the shadows paused to absorb his words, the gnarled faces twisted in confusion. For a heartbeat, the darkness hesitated, as if caught off guard by the purity of their shared memories. "Em, together," Jake urged, drawing strength from the warmth pulsing in their grasp. "Let the love shatter the fear." Emily nodded, her resolve building like a storm inside her. "For Mom," she shouted, her small voice fierce and unwavering. The familiar warmth spread like wildfire, illuminating the space around them. But that flicker of hope only fueled the darker shadow's rage. It roared back with a furious growl, the sound heavy and full of ancient grief. "You dare defy me?" It boomed, the ground trembling beneath them. Jake swayed, the weight of the darkness pressing relentlessly down. He felt the tendrils tighten, stretching across his chest like barbed wire. "Fight it. Don't give up." Emily's scream cut through the chaos, her courage igniting the air. Each word pulled at Jake's core, feeding the flicker of light that burned between them. With every ounce of his being, Jake focused on the shadows' twisted forms, searching for something beyond their pain. "We see you," he yelled, desperation edging into his voice. "We know you're lost and scared. We forgive you." The shadows flinched. Their howls softened, voices colliding in a cacophony of anguish, then fading to whispers. Shadows shifted. Young faces appeared, twisted in sorrow. Jake saw the lost souls trapped, shadows of what once were. How many were fighting to break free? "Em, look!" he gasped, keeping her focused. "This isn't just darkness, it's their pain, their regret." "But there are too many, Dad," Emily cried, her voice turning to a plea. "What if it's too late?" "It's never too late," Jake roared, heart racing. He felt a connection to the lost souls. Each had grief etched deep within. Each could be remembered, held, embraced. They weren't just shadows, they were echoes of love twisted by despair. The darkness surged again, the grotesque figure at its forefront lunged through the swirling mass. "You cannot save them," it screeched, splintering the air. The weight of inevitability pressed down. Panic clawed at Jake's heart. Would they lose everything again? No. He shouted, pushing against doubt. "We can break this cycle. We will not be buried." As he screamed against the darkness, the tether snapped, unleashing a flood of light. Backlit by a cosmic blaze, Jake felt Emily beside him, steady and resolute. And in a heartbeat, the darkness faltered again. Hope shimmered in the wreckage, but was it enough to break free? Or were they teetering on the edge of something far worse than the shadows? In that split second, everything shifted. A blinding flash erupted as the shadows enveloped them, its depths refusing to yield. What dark secrets were lurking just beneath the surface of the abyss, waiting to ensnare them next? The world blurred into an unsettling mist as the shadows swallowed them whole. Jake and Emily clung to each other, their hearts synchronized in a frantic rhythm echoing the surge of darkness around them. The blinding flash had brought them somewhere new, somewhere cold and heavy. "Where are we?" Emily whispered. Her voice trembled, and Jake could feel the fear radiating from her. "Stay close," he replied, steel creeping into his tone. They were still together, and that made all the difference. The chilling air hung with a palpable dread. Vague forms writhed at the edges of his vision, whispers swirling like a sinister breeze. Memories flared in Jake's mind, their last camping trip, the view from the mountaintop as they watched the sunset fade into night. Would they get to see that again? Was this nightmare really happening? Then it struck him. Listen," he said, forcing conviction into his voice. "These shadows, they're not just enemies. They're trapped, like us. But we can reach them, too. We have to help." As he spoke, the ground trembled beneath them, cracking open like a mouth ready to swallow them once more. The shadows coiled tighter around their feet. But Jake felt something shift. The darkness stayed at bay, teetering hesitantly, as if unsure. Can we save them?" Emily's bright gaze met his, flickering with uncertainty and hope. "Together," Jake declared, squeezing her hand tightly. They shut their eyes, breathing in harmony and drawing forth every moment of joy they had shared as a family, the birthday cakes, the movie nights, the laughter echoing through their home. As warmth washed over them, pockets of light began to bloom amid the darkness, illuminating flickers of tortured faces. It felt like they were channeling a forgotten energy, a hope buried beneath layers of sadness, but darkness wasn't ready to surrender. It roared in fury, the cacophony escalating. "You think you can save them? They are beyond redemption." It hissed, the twisted shadows writhing violently, silhouetted against the glow of courage burgeoning from Jake and Emily. "I refuse to believe that," Jake shouted, his voice breaking the walls of dread. The ground shuddered violently, threatening to toss them apart. "We all have the power to change, to heal." Another surge of light exploded from their joined hands, flooding the void with a golden halo. The whispers morphed into cries, the sorrow of lost souls borne on the air. Each echo felt familiar, a haunting reminder of the struggles people faced alone. "Let them go. Let them feel what we feel," Emily cried, her courage pouring forth like a tidal wave, her voice fierce and strong. She stepped forward, pulling Jake with her into the heart of darkness. Then, something broke within the shadows. A cry rang out, intertwined with the roar of ancient pain. The futility of despair faded slightly, revealing flickers of humanity hidden beneath the tumult. But something twisted, unseen, loomed over them, an entity far greater than the darkness they battled. From the corner of his eye, Jake glimpsed a formidable figure, shrouded in shadow, its presence thick with malice and regret. "Not so fast," it growled, bearing down on them. Breaths quickened, hearts raced. Jake locked eyes with Emily, and in that moment, everything hung by a thread. We have to the oppressive force thrust them backward, tearing at their connection. Darkness rushed forward, and the crack formed in the ground gaped wider, threatening to swallow them whole. Now trapped between their growing light and the impenetrable dark, Jake realized the chase was far from over. They weren't finished yet. What lay ahead felt more dangerous than ever. Somehow, they had awakened something ancient. Was there any hope left, or had they unleashed something worse than themselves? The shadows tensed, ready to strike what nightmarish truth awaited them next. The darkness pulsated around them, hungry and relentless. Jake and Emily felt the air grow thick with tension. The malevolent figure loomed above, a twisted amalgamation of pain and despair, swathed in furrows of shadow. The shadows writhed like serpents at its feet, eager to reclaim their dominance. We need to stand together." Jake managed to shout through clenched teeth, mustering every ounce of strength. His heart hammered against his chest, adrenaline surging like a wildfire. With every word he spoke, he felt the shadows recoil, shrinking back from the light they summoned. Emily tightened her grip on Jake's hand, determination igniting her eyes. "Let me go," she yelled, fear mixing with fierce resolve. "I can do this. We can save them. No. We do this together, no matter what." Jake pulled her closer, trying to shield her from the encroaching darkness. Suddenly, the shadows lunged, an avalanche of despair rushing toward them like a tide. Time slowed as whispers of lost souls flared up around them, familiar faces he had once seen in photographs, friends and family lost to unseen battles. "Help us," they whispered, voices weaving through the storm of chaos. Jake swallowed hard, the lump in his throat swelling with regret and sorrow. "No one is meant to suffer like this," he shouted, his voice resonating through the air. He stood tall against the onslaught, feeling Emily's presence beside him like an unbreakable shield. As if sensing his conviction, the ground began to shimmer. With every ounce of love they chose to share, a bright shimmer spread outward, creating a fragile circle of light amidst the suffocating dark. The horrific figure hesitated, dark eyes flickering with confusion and anger. "What are you?" it growled, each syllable drenched in an ice that chilled Jake's bones. "Hope," Jake shouted without thinking. "We're the ones who refuse to give up." The shadows squealed, twisting about like they've taken a hit. Emily stepped forward, her resolve unwavering. "You can't hide behind this veil of fear any longer," she shouted with fierce tenacity, feeling light surge through her veins. "You can be free." A crack echoed as a new rift tore through the darkness, illuminating the tortured faces that emerged, caught between despair and hope. They clawed at the edges of reality, reaching for joy long thought lost. "Join us," Jake yelled, his voice powerfully resonant. "We can fight this together." But the entity glared at them both, seething with rage. "Foolish mortals. You cannot unmake what has been done. I am their tormentor, their keeper. You think light can erase me?" The shadows surged, threatening to consume them whole. "No," Emily cried, tears brimming in her eyes. "We have the strength to change things. We will break this cycle." As their hands clasped tighter, light exploded around them, searing through the shadows, fragments of dark history retreating with anguished cries. Yet, just as hope surged and the dark was forced back, the air crackled with a sudden shift. Out of the depths, a dark wail echoed. It wasn't just another shadow but a manifestation of ancient grief, an entity that thrived on fear. Jake's heart dropped as he realized the realization: they had awakened more than just lost souls. An echo of something evil had risen, hungering for revenge. "Together!" Jake shouted, his voice blending with Emily's as they conjured every memory, every shred of faith they had left. But as they stood united, the bleak laughter of the dark entity filled the air, a cold wind spiraled about them. "Let us see how bright your hope can shine when faced with true horror." And then the world around them began to fracture, the light struggling to hold itself against the darker force that loomed beyond them. Was this the moment they had unleashed something far worse? The oppressive darkness closed in, a desolate promise of despair hanging heavy in the air. Jake and Emily's breath quickened, and the fight was far from over. Could they overcome this ancient evil? Or had they stepped too far into the depths of the night? As the terrifying echoes of darkness tightened around them, time seemed to stretch out, each second feeling like a fragile thread unraveling at the fabric of their reality. The monstrous entity loomed larger, a silhouette of despair fueled by the turmoil of lost memories and shattered lives. Jake stood rooted, his courage wavering like a candle flickering in the wind. We have to hold on," he gasped, the weight of the looming dread squeezing tight around his chest. The air shimmered with energy as Emily tightened her grip. "We can't let it take us or the others. We remember who they are. We know they're lost but still searching for hope." Her voice rang clear, igniting something deep within Jake. The malevolent figure roared, shaking the ground beneath them. "You think memories can save you? Hope is an illusion." But Jake felt a surge of defiance course through him. "Hope is all we've got," he shouted, a raw determination rising from the depths of their shared love. Then, something shifted. The shadows recoiled, twisting and swirling into spirals of confusion as the radiance from Jake and Emily ignited, expanding around them like a shield. "Together, Em. Remember the laughter, the warmth, the love we've shared," Jake shouted as he forced himself to look deep into the eyes of fear. Around them, the shadowy forms of lost souls flickered, their faces revealing the torment they bore. Jake felt their pain, but he also felt the echo of compassion lingering beneath the grief. "You're not alone. You can choose to leave this behind." Emily stepped closer. "We didn't come here to fight. We came to heal." With that simple truth, Jake sensed a palpable shift. It was as though the shadows hesitated, startled by their unexpected resolve. They weren't mere victims anymore, they were vessels of change. Jake could feel Emily's presence beside him, a beacon of warmth against the biting chill of despair. "It's not just us, Dad. They're feeling it too." Pulses of light broke through the chaos, igniting the darkened corners of the clearing with flickers of memories, smiles, laughter, moments shared radiating outward like ripples in a pond. "Feel the warmth," Jake urged, his voice rising above the growing tension. "Let it guide you home. We all deserve peace." As their light spread, the ominous figure snarled, a fierce storm brewing within its core. "You dare challenge me with love? You're fools." Emily took a step forward, and Jake followed her lead. "Love is our strength. Love conquers all," she declared, unyielding in her resolve. In that moment of unity, a fierce wave surged forth, sweeping across the clearing and enveloping the twisting shadows. For every flicker of fear, there was a bright flame of hope pouring forth from Jake and Emily, drowning the darkness in waves of compassion. The distance between the shadows and light began to shrink, and it suddenly felt as though the shadows themselves were responding not with rage, but with longing. "Help us, we wish to be free," they cried, voices trembling like threads of sunlight filtering through velvet. "Yes," Jake shouted, adrenaline surging as he leaned into the light. "Let go of the past. Together, we can embrace hope." The shadows hesitated, then surged forward in a powerful wave, wrapping around Jake and Emily. But instead of pulling them down, it felt like they were being embraced by the lost souls, a collective yearning for release filling the air. "All of you, find peace. Come out of the darkness," Emily urged, tears streaming down her cheeks, but they weren't tears of fear, they were tears of compassion. Slowly, the shadows flickered, their forms shifting from grotesque to beautiful, as if healing was washing over them. The dark entity screamed, its voice merging with that of the lost souls, a collective sound echoing with realization. "You will not." The light surged violently, and with it came a flood of memories, faces long lost, laughter from the past, and a unity that promised to end cycles of despair. "Feel the peace. Find the light." Jake and Emily shouted in unison, the resonance of their voices intertwining like an unbreakable bond. With one final push, a blinding light erupted, engulfing the darkness as it shattered into countless sparks. The cacophony transformed, morphing from screams of terror into hushed tones of relief, vibrating through the clearing with palpable energy. Then, silence. Jake blinked against the almost blinding glow. Slowly, the shadows began to dissipate, floating away like smoke in the breeze. The malevolent figure faded, its rage replaced by the gentle touch of love. Emily stood beside him, panting but shining with a light of her own. "Dad, they're free. They chose hope." As the remnants of the shadows dissolved, the air around them lightened, a sense of tranquility settling over the clearing, washing away the grief. Soft whispers carried through the wind, a chorus of thank yous pairing with the rustling leaves. Jake felt his heart swell as he reached for Emily, pulling her into a tight embrace. They had faced their fears together, and together they had reclaimed a part of their souls that had been lost for far too long. "Let us go home," he whispered softly, his voice steady now, filled with the warmth of acceptance. Together, they walked away from the clearing, the echoes of the past lingering in their hearts but woven with threads of hope for the future. They had broken the cycle. It was time to embrace a new path, one that promised healing and connection. As they left Pine Hollow behind, the sunlight broke through the clouds, illuminating the trails ahead, a sign of new beginnings and a bond that could withstand even the darkest of nights. Don't forget. This is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss our next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. And flood that comments section with your reactions and theories about this heart-stopping ending. Instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second. True fans understand the importance of supporting this channel through these actions. Let's keep the adventures alive.